In this episode of Trekking Through Compliance, we take up episode 12, the Menagerie Part 2, which aired on November 24, 1966, occurring stardate 3012.4. This is part 2 of the two-part pilot that caused NBC to pick up the option for Star Trek. And in this episode, there are some really interesting compliance lessons, particularly for a CCO. Number one, when do you sit down and finally have to speak truth to power? I recognize it's a difficult conversation. It's not something you want to have to do quite often because you'll lose your credibility and you may even lose your job, but sometimes you have to. And what are you going to do when that time comes? What happens when a third party you want to do business with refuses to comply with your compliance requirements? Well, at that point, you may have to pull the plug. But I would also ask you to consider what other alternative measures and actions can you take. And finally, something that we don't talk enough about in compliance, which is failure. And sometimes failure is an option. Sometimes things don't work out. Doesn't mean you have a compliance violation, but sometimes your plans cannot be really brought to fruition. But if not, and failure does occur, what do you learn from it? What are the lessons learned from your failures? Do you do a root cause analysis of your failures to see what caused it and how you can improve it going forward? If you do have failure, learn from it. That's how you can make real progress as a compliance professional and a CCO.